Hello everyone and welcome back to the garden. Today I wanted to take you on a bit of a tour of what I'm actually growing in my garden. This is something that's ever changing and evolving, so I really wanted to do these videos monthly or at least seasonally, but first it's time for a big overview of everything I'm growing. So maybe grab a cup of tea or check out some timestamps because this video might be a long one. So let's start with my new garden beds and the archway, and of course my current obsession, the tromboncinos. I've had quite a few tromboncinos fruit on this archway and I'm absolutely loving seeing them hanging from the trellis. In case you missed it, I'm currently on a mission to grow the biggest tromboncino possible, and these new ones are strong contenders. 23 inches. I also have one that is growing a bit lower on the vine and it's pretty big and heavy. Broke it. But for now, that's two big tromboncinos that I of course have to pose with for scale. I also have one that's a little bit stunted and wonky, but hey, all shapes and sizes are beautiful. In this garden bed, I also have some purple king beans. I picked these up on sale for like 50 cents, so I wasn't expecting much from them, but one of the vines is hanging in there and it's grown all the way up the top. I haven't had any beans or flowers on it yet, but I'm still hopeful, but it could be too late in the season for it. Also in this bed, I have some licorice herb, and this herb is absolutely delicious. If you like licorice, that is. And if you do, I highly recommend this herb. I don't really know of its culinary uses, but I'm a really big fan of this herb. So good. I also have a few plants in this bed that haven't quite made it. This was once a butternut pumpkin, but something has eaten the leaves. And next to it was a gherkin variety of cucumber. I did manage to harvest a few off it though before the caterpillars took it over. Now I don't use any pest management in my garden. I'm trying to focus on introducing diversity and predator insects and learn through trial and error. So for now there's a lot of error, especially when it comes to a new garden bed and it doesn't have the diversity there yet. I'm also growing some zucchini in this garden bed, which may be a bit late in the season for it, but I bought a bunch of zucchini seedlings and planted one of them in each garden bed to try and understand the differences between the locations and maybe how the soil impacts it or the different sunlight, and I wanted to see which one performed the best. So far, this one is doing okay. I also have a variety of flowers and flower seedlings popping up in this bed. They're mostly zinnias, cosmos, and sunflowers. I've just been direct sowing some of this flower seeds and seeing what works. I'm pretty sure the birds have been eating the majority of the seeds though, but some are still popping up. I'm hoping to get more flowers in this bed to encourage more beneficial insects in this area, and plus they just always look stunning. For the second bed in the archway, it's sadly not looking great. Again, this one has been decimated by insects. To be honest, I've been really enjoying spending my time looking at all the different insects and trying to identify them and understand how they contribute to the ecosystem and learn ways to encourage predator insects to manage them instead of any pesticides. And hopefully over time I'll share my findings in a future video as I become more knowledgeable, but for now it's all about observation and learning. I think this plant was once a Lebanese cucumber, and then next to it I also have some apple cucumbers. I got these apple cucumbers discounted, so I just chucked them in and hope for the best. I haven't tasted this variety yet, but curious to see what it tastes like. They're quite a large cucumber and I guess it looks like an apple. And I think all gardeners can be really guilty of this, when you plant something in a bed and think, I'll remember, and then a month later you have no idea what you planted. That is definitely the case with this bed. I think I have some buttersquash growing in this bed. And then I have another climber that's been doing quite well and it has lots of flowers but no fruit yet. So I have no idea what it is, but we'll just have to see what happens. I also have a little jackpea little pumpkin seedling growing in this bed. I would really love to have some tiny pumpkins hanging off the trellis, but this tiny seedling is hanging on for dear life. It has been so hot lately with zero rain. I've been trying to water as much as I can, but I don't know if this guy's gonna make it. Again, I also have some zucchini in this bed and a variety of flowers. There was some capsicum seedlings that I had in here, but I don't think they took. But let me know if you have any recommendations of what else I should grow in this trellis coming into autumn. I definitely want something that's gonna take it over a bit and just look awesome. Then to the right of my trellis, we have my perennial flower bed. Now this garden bed was designed to be like a cottage garden and inspired with lots of color and whimsy, and also designed to attract the bees. The hot shed though makes the area pretty challenging, but I'm slowly learning what works in this location. Most of what I'm growing is salvias. I've completely fallen in love with salvias. They are so hardy and they constantly flower. And there's a huge variety of salvias you can get and they all look stunning. One of my favorites is this Mexican sage variety. It flowers almost non-stop and has these lovely furry purple flowers. And if you want more of this plant, you can just cut off a bit and plant it elsewhere in the garden. So highly recommend this one. Next to it, I have some pink variety of salvias and also some rosemary and a random elephant plant I'll probably pot up and take indoors. It smells so good. Then I have some flowering basil. I think this is a perennial basil variety and I highly recommend you grow this because the bees absolutely love it and it's just constantly flowering. I also have a Thai basil variety next to it and I got this just because I thought the purple flowers were so nice. And then I have some Angelomia flowers. This variety is called Archangel, which I think just sounds so badass. But again, this is a really hardy flower that constantly flowers and it just looks great. I also have some Pentas, and again, a really hardy flower. I feel like these really add to that cottage aesthetic. And throughout this garden bed, I have a bunch of different salvias, and to be honest, I don't know their names. But they look stunning, and that's the important part. I also have some beautiful butterfly bushes that the bees absolutely love. I also recently added a second one that's got pink flowers. I've also recently added a yellow mandevilla. I have this flower elsewhere in the garden, but again, this flower is so hardy, so prolific, I just had to buy more. And the color is stunning. I also have a big rosella bush in this bed, and I'll talk more about rosellas later. And I also have some gerberas. Again, these are so hardy and are constantly flowering. And these are a bit special because I got these from my dad who has passed on. So I really love that plants can be inherited and have a new life. Moving on to my yellow garden bed, which was my annual flower bed experiment, and this bed looked so good a few weeks ago, but sadly is starting to die back. The yellow cosmos is still going strong, but all the zinnias are in their final stages. Initially in this bed, I ordered a bunch of random seeds and scattered them throughout the bed and crossed my fingers hoping it would work. And the results have been so stunning and it's brought in so many beneficial insects. I used to love dahlias, but after seeing how beautiful the zinnias are, I think I'm a convert. Plus they are way cheaper and easier to grow than dahlias. I also think this bed needed more sunlight without the shade cloth because they were all leaning to one side, which made it a bit hard to manage as well. But this was a really good experiment. It taught me to definitely plant a lot more flowers. This time I'll do it throughout the garden rather than just one bed. I'm gonna cut these flowers back soon and start planting things out for next season. I'm thinking of adding a lot of tomatoes in this bed, so let me know if there's any particular varieties I should try out. Also, a quick note, I did add a zucchini in this bed and it is not going well, which is quite interesting. So I wonder if it's the soil or something to do with the sun, but I'll keep an eye on it. Now onto my pink garden bed, which is mostly vegetables. I've talked about my cucamelon before and it is still taking over. And if you're in a hot climate, I highly recommend this plant. It has not missed a beat this summer and produces a ton of tiny little grape-shaped fruit that tastes like cucumber. I'm also growing some Lebanese cucumber. I love cucumber, so I'm so determined to find a way to grow them that works because all of mine have just been eaten by caterpillars. But this time, I'm trialing growing them with the cucamelon. I had a stray cucumber growing up the trellis with the cucamelon, and I noticed it was pristine, like no bugs had touched it at all. So I'm thinking the cucamelon might detract the insects or confuse them, so that's why I'm trialing growing them together. I'll see how it goes and report back on the results, that is if it can survive the heat, because we still got a few hot weeks left of summer. I also have some lettuce seedlings in this bed, and I'm currently experimenting with varieties that survive the heat well. I also found this little clump of seedlings, and I wasn't too sure what it was, but if you saw my last video, you saw me cutting off the dead heads of my flowers and scattering them around the garden. It looks like that's what this is. Those flower seeds have already started to germinate, but I'm not sure how they'll go as a clump, but we'll see what happens. In this bed, I also have some bush beans, and I will not be growing this variety again. In the past, I've loved growing bush beans and found them quite tasty, but whatever this variety is not very good. They're really chewy. It also got attacked by a rust disease and I think mealybugs. I initially cut them back a bit to see how they go. They're looking a bit better, but again, they just don't taste good. Also, a plant I'm growing, which I think is pretty cool, is peanuts. Like a lot of people, I was pretty oblivious to how peanuts grow, but turns out they grow underground. So you just grow from a little bush with small yellow flowers. I have no idea how to know when to harvest this, but I'm pretty excited to see how it goes. Sometimes I like growing things just for fun. Also in this bed, I've got a zucchini and it is looking the healthiest. Out of all my zucchinis, it is looking the healthiest in this bed, and I think it's even got fruit already. And then I'm growing some corn that I'm very excited about. This is a painted mountain corn variety, so they'll end up being some really cool colors. And I think they were originally cultivated by Native American Indians. I've heard that they're not particularly edible, but they just look cool. So of course I'm just growing them for that reason. And this time I'm growing them in clumps as an experiment. They usually recommend growing corn in blocks. I saw someone growing corn in little clumps and I wanted to give it a go because it seems to take up less space and I'm always up for trying new things. Then moving on to my blue garden bed. Again, this is mostly vegetables in this garden bed. In the front, I have a variety of capsicums and eggplants, or peppers and aubergines for your non-Aussies. And you've seen me harvest these a bit in my previous videos. I've been trialing a few different varieties to see what grows well in this climate and to see what I like to eat. And for capsicums, I've been growing a bullhorn variety, which has been quite prolific, but I've been making the mistake of harvesting it too early a few times. But now I know to make sure to let it go red, which means it's ready to harvest. I also have a chocolate variety, which has been quite nice. And then I have a perennial variety, which means it lasts all year round. And they have quite tiny capsicums, but they've been quite tasty. All of these varieties have been pretty good. I like capsicums, so I'm more interested in getting a variety that's quite prolific and gives me regular crops. In terms of eggplants, I got this long eggplant variety and it has been quite prolific, but I just don't know if it's not very nice or I keep harvesting it wrong, but it's just always green inside with large seeds. So maybe I need to research it more because it might be slightly different than normal eggplant. I also have a larger variety. I think maybe it's a black beauty type, I'm not too sure. They've only recently started fruiting. I also have a white variety, which I think always looks cool. And to be honest, I don't really like eggplant, but I'm eager to learn to find ways to try and eat it because eggplants generally grow quite well, so I'm kind of trying to force myself to find ways to eat it. So please let me know if you got any tips or recipes for eating them. In this garden bed, I also have some celery that I planted like months and months ago, and I'm pretty sure the season was finished for it ages ago, but I've kind of left it here hoping it would do something, but nope, it doesn't taste very good, so I'll probably cut it out and prepare for the next season. In this bed, I'm also growing zucchini, and this has caused me the most frustration this season. I had like 6 zucchinis in this bed, and all of them died except one, and I've only gotten 1 zucchini off it. Usually my zucchinis are non-stop and I have more than I need, but this season I've been having the worst luck. I had planted some more zucchini seedlings and I did one in each bed like I mentioned earlier, and I think more has definitely helped with cross-pollination because I'm finally getting another zucchini on this plant. And then at the back of this garden bed I have some bean trellises. I think I've raved about this in every video, but these beans have been so prolific. I think it's a dwarf stringless bean variety and they've been growing so well I can't keep up. The beans also taste great and there's always something growing on the vine. So I've been leaving some beans on the vine so they can dry out and then I can save the seeds for future planting. Then we have my green garden bed, which to be honest isn't too exciting. This is a new garden bed that doesn't have good soil in it, so I'm in the process of planting out some green manure crops to help add nitrogen and improve the soil. And to be honest, a lot of this is just experimentation and seeing what I can get away with on a budget. The large plants in this bed are pigeon peas, which is a common plant used in permaculture to improve soil. The root nodules release nitrogen, and when you cut the leaves back into the soil, it adds the nutrients back in as well. These grow quite big, but I'll be cutting it back before it gets too crazy. I also have some alfalfa seedlings and mustards and various things I can't remember, but they're all doing their job of improving the soil. I have a random sweet basil plant in this bed, and I'll be harvesting that soon to make some pesto sauce for pasta. Then moving to the back area in my garden, which is kind of like a fruit forest where I'm growing mostly trees. On the left, I have some bananas, and this is a Cavendish variety. It's a few years old now, so it should be getting bananas soonish, but it was in the chicken pen and it was a bit brutalized at the roots, so it's only just recovering. I also have a red Dakar variety, which grows a red variety of banana, so they should be interesting when it gets fruit, but generally these take about 3 years. I also have some coffee trees at the back. These are a Arabica variety, I think, and they're not too happy with me at the moment. I think it's been way too hot and they were left in pots for too long, but hopefully they'll have a comeback, and then in a few years they'll grow some fruit and I can turn it into coffee beans. It'll be the longest cup of coffee ever. In this area, I also have a few citrus trees. I have a dwarf blood orange, a lemon maya, and a yuzu lemon. But let me tell you, I'm very excited for my yuzu. When I was in Japan, I tried a yuzu lemon soda and it was absolutely delicious. So of course, I researched if I could grow it in my climate, and luckily I can. And this fruit has become quite trendy lately. If you go places, you'll probably start to see it on the menu. The good thing is this one already has fruit, so I'm excited to try and turn it into something. I'm thinking maybe a yuzu syrup. And then in this area, I also have a large rosella bush. This hibiscus is native to Australia and West Africa, and again is very hardy, and the calluses on them are commonly turned into jam. So that's the plan for this bush. On the ground level, I'm growing some pineapples. And these are awesome because some friends of mine who live nearby on a farm gave me some pineapples to eat, and I kept the tops of them and replanted them. So I think it's so cool that they've been able to have another life, and in 3 years' time, I might be able to have a pineapple. I also have a bunch of scattered pumpkins growing around this area. You've seen me talk lots about the Jackby Little pumpkins. I think it's great, but I don't know why they've all started to become stunted in this area. I just don't think they like the heat. And I also have some butternut varieties getting around as well, and these, yeah, none of these seem to be doing well. So I think the heat is just making everything struggle. Then on the large wood trellis, I have some Madagascar beans, and I've been learning lots about these beans. They're a really prolific bolotti bean, so they are a great protein source, which is a great thing to consider if you are looking at doing gardening for self-sufficiency. But I've learned recently they can really take over, so I'm starting to doubt this location a bit, but we'll see how they go. And then we have my patio area, and in this area I have some hanging pots with some strawberries and various flowers that I'll just rush over because they're not doing so well. And up against the fence I have some mandevilla climbers, and I am loving these. I've added some wire for it to climb up so it can grow on the back of the fence and up along the roof as well. I've also added a pink one in the ground for more color because I think these just look great and they flower a lot, and also they don't need much water. I'm also trialing a grape in the ground to hopefully add more shade in summer in this area, but it is struggling. I really think I need to water it more, but it's just been a really hot summer, okay? I'm doing my best to water everything, but I think some are a bit more needy than others. And outside of that, I just have a bunch of random stuff in pots. I have lots of varieties of blueberries. I've been trying to buy ones that are recommended for this climate, so I have Sunshine Blue and Biloxi. And blueberries are great to grow in pots because they like an acidic soil, so when they're in pots you can control that a bit more. So I'm calling this area for now Berry Boulevard. And then I have Apple Alley, and then I have a variety of apples that I plan to keep in pots. These apples are recommended for more subtropical climates, and you have to have different varieties of apples for cross-pollinations. I also have some Okinawa sweet potatoes growing in grow bags. I do these in grow bags because I'll be able to just tip them out and harvest them all. And I have a few other things scattered around in pots like strawberries and a native raspberry, which I'm excited about. These grow quite big, so again they're in a pot. I also have an elderberry which grows quite big as well, and they're also really great for making syrups for like cordials and things like that. One plant I wanted to highlight though, because I think it's really cool, is this vanilla bean. It's a climber and it's more suited to a tropical environment, but I was given it and excited to see how it goes. I had it out the back in full sun, but I recently learned it's an orchid, so it actually likes a shady spot. So I've got it under the house for now until I find a good spot, but I'm excited to see how this goes. And outside of that, I've got a few other trees growing on the side of the house. But yeah, that's pretty much a big full tour of my garden. It's always going to be evolving, always changing, and I'm excited to keep you guys updated on what I'm growing. I just think growing things is so exciting. There's so much to learn, so many different varieties of things. And I think if you're a grower yourself, it's the best way to learn what works and what's out there and what excites you about growing. So I hope to keep you guys updated. But if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and make sure to follow along on my Instagram where I post updates about my garden. And thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying making these gardening videos and the support has been awesome. So thanks a bunch and I'll see you next time.